Welcome to Fearless with Jason Whitlock. I'm Jason Whitlock, your host. Happy Friday. Happy Good Friday. I'm calling it Good Friday because I'm in a good mood. We have a fantastic show planned for you today. It's going to take you by surprise, my take today, where we're going to start the show. But if you stick with me, you're going to love it. Initially, you're going to be like, oh, what is Whitlock doing? But if you stick with me, you'll love my take today. As always, you'll love Steve Kim and Butter. Delano Squires is going to join us towards the back end of the show. Shemeka Michelle as well. Let me get right into it, and I'm going to take you to the conclusion first, and then I'm going to take you on a long, winding road till we get back to the conclusion. I'm going to show you the conclusion, show you the analogy that I'm playing into, and then I'm going to take a long, winding road to get you back there. But stick with me. Today's show is about why we're winning, why we're actually winning the culture war. And I'm going to make an analogy today that Deion Sanders and college football and men's sports, basically, they kind of represent Walmart. Everything's kind of gone global. College football, they just had meetings here in Nashville where they're talking about the super leagues in college football. And my initial reaction was, here they go. They're ruining college football even more. They're turning, everything's now no conferences. How can the SEC and the Big Ten, how can they inspire the ACC and the Big 12 to get involved in this super league of 70 teams? And it's globalism brought to college football. It's Walmart running out the little guys and everything becoming a part of this big thing that's, it's so much better. No, it's not. It destroys character. It destroys quality. Mass production destroys quality. And it runs out the little guy. And it runs out uniqueness, and everything becomes bland. And you go into these big mega stores where everything's discounted and everything's lower quality than if you were actually dealing with a local owner, a local shopkeeper. That's where I thought, initially, hey, that's where I'm going with today's show. They're turning college football into Walmart, and Deion Sanders is a representation of that. We've gone from Nick Saban being the face of college football to Deion Sanders being the face of college football. That's not as good. But as I sat here and thought, and I had an epiphany about, hey, Whitlock, being a journalist, your cynicism works well as a journalist. But being a Christian and a believer, you have to know and you have to tell people, hey, we're winning. We've won. Our victory has been written. And so everything can't be doom and gloom. And everything isn't doom and gloom. Because while there's Walmart, and again, this analogy isn't perfect, but it works for what I'm doing today. We got to remember what Chick-fil-A is out there, having incredible success. And I know they don't do the same thing as Walmart, but Chick-fil-A is a franchise that stuck to its core Christian values, isn't open on Sunday. It's run like a Christian corporation with Christian values. It's stuck to high quality. Hey, we're going to come into the fast food industry and we're not going to serve you up poor quality chicken. We're going to actually serve you the best chicken you can ever get through a fast food drive-through window. You think KFC is good? Do you think Church's chicken is good? You think Popeyes is good? They don't touch Chick-fil-A, and that's why Chick-fil-A has a line wrapped around the corner every time you pass a Chick-fil-A. And that's what we have going on in sports with Caitlin Clark. Caitlin Clark and the WNBA, they're Chick-fil-A. And I know many of you are going to cut it out, Whitlock. You've gone too far. You're obsessed with Caitlin Clark. you've lost your mind. Didn't you listen to Virgil on Wednesday tell you that, you got to get off this whole women in sports thing? I'm going to have to respectfully disagree with Virgil, and I'm going to have to respectfully disagree with all of you all. Caitlin Clark and the WNBA, they represent something good, something necessary, something that has to happen in order to humble men and make men have a pair. Caitlin Clark and what the WNBA is doing is a part of us winning this culture war. Last night, it was a big night in sports. There was Thursday Night Football on Amazon, San Francisco 49ers versus the Seattle Seahawks, two high-stakes Major League Baseball playoff games, Yankees-Royals, Cleveland-Detroit. But the most compelling thing in sports that happened last night happened on a WNBA court in the WNBA Finals. I know I sound crazy. I know many of you didn't watch. I did. What the Minnesota Lynx did in their comeback, they're down 18, overtime victory over the New York Liberty. It was a phenomenal basketball game. It was a phenomenal competition. Some woman named Courtney Williams hit a three and got fouled at the end of regulation. A 4-point play. They go up one, and then Breanna Stewart chokes and misses the game-winning free throw at the other end. It goes overtime. It was compelling. And I know many of you are sitting there, I hate the WNBA. I hate what it represents. It's a league of angry lesbians. It's a league full of BLM messaging. It's a woke Marxist league. I'm rooting against it. I know many of you are in that mindset. You need to kill that mindset. The WNBA is going to turn into one of our greatest weapons in this culture war. And it's because, and this is why you need to quit rooting against WNBA ratings. They're actually good that they're going up, and quit, without Caitlin Clark, because they're not without Caitlin Clark. Even when Caitlin Clark's not playing, she's the reason more people are tuning into the WNBA. You think I would have watched last night without Caitlin Clark? I just saw over social media Bill Simmons. He went to the game last night. You think he would have went without Caitlin Clark? You think any of us would know anything about the WNBA and any of these other players without Caitlin Clark? Everything that's going on in the WNBA is a direct reflection of Caitlin Clark. And I know that's driving many of the players and many of the racial idolaters absolutely crazy. But for those of us that have a longer vision, a smarter take, we should actually be rooting for the WNBA to have more and more success, because something got dropped into the WNBA that has made this a viable league. And that something that got dropped into the WNBA is Caitlin Clark. It's her Christian parents. It's the fruit that the nuclear family that cares about Jesus Christ, that fruit is so powerful that it could take a league like the WNBA that was irrelevant for 27 straight years. Lost money, no one cared, you couldn't pay people to watch. You couldn't make people watch at gunpoint. You drop a tiny bit of that biblical nuclear family fruit in the WNBA, wrapped in the right package with the right jump shot, and a league that is hot garbage becomes the hottest thing in sports. That's how powerful Caitlin Clark and what her two parents produced with that upbringing. And I know some of you are going to get lost in the sauce and well, they're Catholics and that's heresy and blah. I'm not doing any of that. I'm going to leave that to God. I just know that her parents believe in Jesus Christ. And I know they raised her in a Catholic home and in Catholic schools. And I'm looking at the fruit that they produced. And it's a lesson and a message for everyone, a message that American men and America need to see and need to acknowledge. That there is no better fruit than the nuclear family trying to serve God. That fruit is undefeated. And that's how I'm looking at God. And I'm not saying Caitlin Clark is perfect, because she may be a hardcore feminist for all we know, but she ain't acting like it right now. She has transformed this league, and trust me, what will happen as a result of Caitlin Clark and the rise of the WNBA is men are going to have to snap out of it. Business people are going to have to snap out of it and say, man, if I want to be relevant, if I want to make money, if I want to produce the biggest stars, the biggest cultural influencers, I got to get back to that. Whatever was put in Caitlin Clark, we need to be putting it in the next generation of athletes, entertainers, and influencers. Men's sports need to be humbled. No different than the humbling that's going on right now with the angry lesbians that have been running the WNBA. They're all irate. Oh, this little white girl, this heterosexual, and comes from this little perfect Catholic family. We hate her because she's driving all the interest. Men need to have that same experience, because it's no different. And this is a long, winding road I'm taking you down, but trust me, it all connects. No different than what we have just experienced over the last 8-9 years with Donald Trump. And I'm not calling Donald Trump the ideal Christian. What I'm talking about as it relates to Donald Trump and as it relates to sports and all this stuff, what's the number one thing people hate admitting? That they're wrong. People hate admitting that they're wrong. They'll go through all kinds of denials. They'll tell all kinds of lies to themselves and everybody else. The last thing they want to do is admit that they're wrong. What's going on right now in American politics? We're watching it in real time. People are admitting that they were wrong. Oh man, I had Trump derangement syndrome. I bought everything the fake news told me. I took every booster, every vax that they offered up. Oh, I was convinced that Donald Trump said there's fine people on both sides in Charlottesville. I let the media convince me he was the biggest racist. He's the next Adolf Hitler. What is going on right now in America? People are acknowledging, yeah, I was wrong. These leftists, these people on the Democrat Party, they ain't about anything that they're talking about. Remember when they had us crying, oh, Trump, he's lost families at the border, he's locked up kids. And now they're looking at, no, this is what the left wants to do with the border. They don't care about kids. They're shipping in criminals. And so all the polling right now is showing like incredible momentum towards Donald Trump. And not just with white people, not just with suburban white women, black people. And this is what's really disconcerting. People that have run around, oh, I hate Trump and Trump derangement syndrome and Trump. The polling, the internal polling, the polling that Kamala Harris and these guys are looking at every day is telling them like, man, we're losing black people. We're losing black women even. We've certainly lost black men. Things have gotten so bad that they had to dust off Barack Obama, and he had to go give a private tongue lashing to black men about how they're mistreating Kamala Harris. I want to play this clip of and we'll bring Delano on later in the show to talk about this specifically. But Barack Obama, I hate to call it private because they've leaked the video or the video's out there, but had a private meeting with black men, I think in Atlanta, somewhere. Anyway, let's play the clip.
Communities is that we have not yet seen the same kinds of energy and turnout in all quarters of our neighborhoods and communities as we saw when I was running. Now, I also want to say that that seems to be more pronounced with the brothers. So if you don't mind, just for a second, I'm going to speak to y'all directly and say that when you have a choice that is this clear, when on the one hand you have somebody who grew up like you, knows you, went to college with you, understands the struggles and pain and joy that comes from those experiences. He's had to work harder and do more and overcome and achieves the second highest office in the land.
Barack Obama, things are so bad. We're winning in such a landslide. The scales are coming off people's eyes so fast that they had to dust off Barack Obama and he had to go give black men, black Democrats, a tongue lashing. Hey, what are you guys doing? Don't you understand Kamala Harris used to pleasure Willie Brown? Don't you know how many Omega Psi Phi Q dogs she pleasured at Howard University? She grew up like you. She's been servicing you guys for years. She did it for Willie Brown. She did it for Omega Psi Phi, Kappa Alpha Psi. She did it for everybody at Howard. Don't you understand? Yes, she married a white Jew, but forget all that. Don't you understand? Oh, yes, she grew up in Canada, but forget all that. Oh, yeah, her mother's Asian or Indian or whatever, and her daddy's from Jamaica, but forget all that. She's like me. You guys, you know how black I am. You know, I mean, my white grandparents in Hawaii, I never met my black daddy. There's 2 or 3 guys that he could be, who knows? But you know how we grew up. At Harvard or Yale or wherever Barack went to school, we all did that. That's the ultimate black experience at Harvard, at an Ivy League school, coming from Hawaii, raised by your white grandparents. We're all black. That's how desperate they are, because we're crushing them. The scales are coming off people's eyes. And that's what I think Caitlin Clark and the WNBA are going to represent to men's professional sports, the college and the professional level. They have gone as far as they can go, and they can see that's not very far, with all this leftist, BLM, racial idolatry. They've gone as far as they can go. That's why they haven't forced LeBron James back out here into the political space, as we talked about yesterday, because it doesn't work. No one wants to hear that. LeBron probably doesn't even want to say it anymore because he knows it doesn't work. This is, I'm going to make a comparison to what this reminds me of, and forgive me for spilling out my first world problems. But I'm going to. It's the only analogy that works, and some of you can relate to it. You got first world problems too. But last November, I bought a house, and I went house shopping, and put some bids in on some different houses. got outbid a couple of places or more than I wanted to pay for a particular place. And eventually I was like, man, I'm just going to find the neighborhood I want to be in. And I don't care what the house looks like on the inside. I'll just renovate the whole thing and make it look the way that I want and have all the things I want inside the house. Much longer process doing it that way than buying a house that's already been fixed up or, looks the way you want it. But I'm like, man, I'm in it for the long haul. I'll just do this. I'll go through the pain. Anybody that's gone through a complete home renovation will know what I'm talking about because we stripped this house to the studs. That was the first thing we did. And so I'm now on my third contractor. This has been an incredible experience. Bought the house in November, told the place where I was living, yeah, I'm gonna move out of here July. Want my lease to run out in July. Well, here we are now in mid-October, and in July, I told my place, because they were trying to charge me an astronomical fee to stay in the penthouse apartment I was living in if I went month to month in July. And so I was like, man, I'm still the same old guy. I can rough it. I put my thinking, I only have to be here for a month or two. I put my stuff in storage and I downsized to a 1-bedroom apartment in the same building. Thinking like, this is nothing. I'm still the same. I can rough it. I'll put my stuff in storage. Just give me my Stairmaster in my living room. Give me a chair in the living room. Give me a bed in the 1-bedroom. I'm good. It's been a nightmare. It's been a nightmare. I got my Stairmaster in my living room. I got a hydro rowing machine in my living room, and I got this chair that I sit in, and I got my bed. My apartment smells like a locker room. I get off that Stairmaster, I get off the rowing machine, and I sit in this chair until I can recover and go to the shower. The chair smells unbelievably bad, and I've Febrezed it to death. I've done everything. It just can't be fixed. I'm living in a locker room right now. It's just me and a bunch of sweat in this chair, and it's just a nightmare scenario. And my house has been making progress. I don't want to talk poorly on my previous contractors, but anybody that's gone through a home renovation, there can be a bit of a struggle with your contractor and finding the right one. First one had a little bit of a background that I was uncomfortable with. The second one was me trying to be slick and I'm gonna save money. I'm gonna do this kind of off the grid. And there's a friend of mine that he thinks he can oversee all of this and blah blah blah. That turned into a nightmare. Ruined the friendship. And so now I'm on my third contractor. And it's been the most expensive, and I'm not complaining because it's been great, but I'm just telling you the truth. It's been the most expensive thing. I think it's the most expensive thing I've ever been involved with. It's just been incredible. It's everything that I want costs an amazing amount of money to be done, and the process just keeps going on and on and on and on and on. And you just think like, this is the most painful experience. I'm cramped up in this little 1-bedroom apartment. It smells like a gym in here. You're sweating everywhere. Your little sanctuary is this bed. It's been a test of my patience and everything. And you start thinking it's never going to end. And then you get here where I am now. And when I go over to my house every day, I can actually see the finish line. I'm seeing floors being installed. I'm the cabinets, I'm bathrooms, and all of this. It's all coming together. And there's this glimmer of hope. And it's like, oh, I can see the finish line. That's where we're at right now in this culture war. It's been a really painful process. I think it was like 8 or 9 years ago, I can remember being on the lot at Fox Sports and talking to an executive at Fox Sports, not going to call his name, and we sat outside, and this is at the beginning or maybe 2, 3 years, 4 years into this woke stuff. And it was like when Deadspin had taken over the sports media, and I can remember we sat out there and said, man, this has got to end, right? We got to get back to normal where guys can be guys and people can say whatever they want and we have free speech. This can't go on forever. And we thought, yeah, it'll be over in a year or two. And that was 8 years ago. And again, this is just like a renovation. You think, oh, I'm going to move in July. Oh, well, it'll be August. Well, it'll be September. Oh, it's got to end sometime. And then finally, there are lights at the end of the tunnel. I think that's what's going on with Donald Trump and people admitting that they're wrong about Donald Trump and that they had Trump derangement syndrome, and people have now moved past like, man, you can call me any name in the book. Call me a racist, call me an Uncle Tom, call me a seller. I'm standing on this truth. I don't care. And when I see black people willing to like, no, I'm supporting Trump, I'm voting for Trump, and they're telling pollsters that, it's like, holy cow, there's light at the end of the tunnel. We're actually winning the culture war. It's been ugly, it's been nasty, it's gone on too long, but we're actually winning. Same thing's gonna happen in sports. The insanity and men continuing to destroy men's sports. It's a necessary thing. I could come on the show today and just whine and complain about the good old days of college football. I can whine and complain, like, look at Kendrick Perkins and these guys that want to do these exploitive payday loans to college athletes. I can come on and complain about it. Oh, they've ruined college football. They've ruined all the conferences. Oregon somehow is now in the Big Ten and they're playing Ohio State. This makes no sense. I could come on and complain about it. I'm actually now going to root for it because it's part of the demolition process that's necessary. If my house had never been stripped to the studs, completely stripped down, needing new drywall everywhere. I mean, there's nothing in this house that was there before. If I had never gone through that difficult process and all the pain and the different contractors and the delays and this enormous cost to rebuilding this house, I would never be here where I am right now. Like, oh, there's light at the end of the tunnel. I can see. I'm going to be so. Now when I go to bed, I do nothing but dream about my house. And it keeps me, it's like, I don't mind. Well, I do mind being in this apartment, but it makes being in this apartment tolerable that I know the finish line is just around the corner. Maybe early November, 1st of December at the latest, maybe before that. But I had to go through this process. And so there's a process. We have destroyed men's sports. The athletes all want to be rappers. We're overpaying them. Yes, they're overpaid. They don't earn. They're not worth $50 million a year. So we need to allow them to continue to destroy men's sports so that we can remake it. And Caitlin Clark and the WNBA are a part of that process. Because eventually people are going to wake up and say, hey, why is that league growing? Why is Caitlin Clark's popularity growing? Why? Just like I told you all yesterday, Caitlin Clark is going to sell more gym shoes than LeBron James. Trust me, it's going to happen. She's going to be a more valuable asset for Nike than LeBron James. And you know what that's going to make LeBron James and or the next LeBron James do? How did Caitlin Clark do that? Why is she more popular than I am? She's not as good as I am. She doesn't play basketball at my level. The WNBA doesn't play basketball at our level. What have they got that I don't have? They got a superstar that everybody that's jumped on her bandwagon believes like, oh, she loves America. Oh, she comes from a traditional family. Oh, she's got a boyfriend. She's heterosexual. Oh, she's American. Oh, anytime she gets in a press conference, she doesn't look for a way to take a dump on America and say how ungrateful she is and what, oh, they owe me this and they owe me that. She's not Megan Rapinoe. She's not LeBron James. She's not Colin Kaepernick. And men will take a lesson from that and will say, I got to adjust. If I want to be on her level, I have to adopt her values. Because what we've had going on for the last 40 years, or let's say particularly post Michael Jordan. Oh, Allen Iverson, he's the heir to Michael Jordan's throne. And he's all tatted up and got cornrows, and he's drunk and high most of the time when he's not on the court. Yes, I said it. I know Allen Iverson is one of your icons. But ever since then, everybody, oh, the more ghetto you are, the more you're like a rapper, the more you're tatted up like a rapper, the more you talk against America, the bigger star you are. That has been the goal in American sports with a lot of these athletes in football and basketball for years. And now people are starting to understand the consequences of that, and they will really understand them as the WNBA, because of Caitlin Clark, becomes more and more powerful. This is a good thing. Caitlin Clark is the battering ram or the demolition crew coming in to tear down a house that we built improperly. Men, we need our house torn down. I'm not saying we need Caitlin Clark to leave, but we need our house torn down so that we will build a proper house. Because we are the builders. Again, the whole WNBA, it's surviving off the charity of the NBA. They have no idea they're building Frankenstein, and again, they're going to try to do everything they can to displace Caitlin Clark, but it will not be easy and it will not be done. Because this next group of people, they're not built from the same fruit, the same trees as Caitlin Clark. Paige Becker's not, and I'm not taking any shot at her. It's not a shot, but parents divorced and all that, and she loves to hop on board with all that woke Yas Queen BS. Juju Watkins, maybe she's got great parents, but they haven't showcased them. I don't know. They dropped a tiny bit of that biblical fruit into the WNBA, and look at the results. I'm now watching the Minnesota Lynx, and again, they got a team full of, tatted up, whatever, but that's not what they were showcasing last night. And they had the most compelling event going. It's the only real thing going. We look around at men's sports, and it's all going WWE. National Hockey League is installing women coaches. For what? Because it's the WWE. LeBron James is installing his son into the NBA storyline. There's no meritocracy in the NBA. They've eliminated the meritocracy in the NFL everywhere. We got to let the men, these idiots, continue to tear down men's sports because it's not built on a great foundation at this point. We took what the YMCA organized and we've turned it over to the devil. And so we got to let it fall. I'm going to document it and tell you about its fall. I'll watch so you don't have to. But I'll document, again, what's going on with LeBron James and Bronny James. This is more about the destruction of men's sports. It's a soap opera. The competition doesn't matter. LeBron James is mad about having to get on a plane and go to Milwaukee and play a preseason game. even though his son gets to fly along with him. But this isn't the ultimate example of meritocracy anymore. It's a television show with scripted acting. Go look at the NFL, what we showed you yesterday. They're fining a running back for a classic block. They've destroyed the game. Men have done that. As I told you yesterday, the NFL is dying because it doesn't know how to take care of its former players. They haven't prioritized that. They haven't prioritized taking care of the people that built the foundation of that league. They built an immoral league. What are you supposed to do when your parents invest in you as a child and they put you in a great situation, provide you a home, a place for development? Does the Bible not tell you to honor them and take care of them? Does not a properly organized and run family complete the circle of life? Your mama and daddy took care of you as a baby. Your mama and daddy get old. They become babies all over again. And then you take care of them. That's the cycle. NFL loves to talk about family. All these sports talk about family. Has the NFL, their players, have they sat around and said, hey man, look at all this money we making? Can we set some aside for Dick Butkus, Terry Bradshaw, O.J. Simpson, he's dead, Jim Brown, any of these guys that paid the price so that these guys could live in the lap of luxury? Do you know what kind of a fool I would be to enjoy the success that I've had in this life and not turn around and share it with my mother and father? I'd be retarded. I wouldn't be worthy of any respect at all. But this is the world men have built. It needs to be torn down. These guys spend more time fighting. They got the NFL to cough up $100 million so they can go redo criminal justice and make sure they protect the next George Floyd. They talked NFL owners into that. Hey, we want to do a social justice movement where we're out reforming the criminal justice system. A group of football idiots, and I used to be one, think they know how to fix the criminal justice system. And they were handed $100 million by NFL owners to go out and manipulate and play with the criminal justice system. These guys weren't fighting for, hey man, let me make sure that when Warren Sapp is 75, he's good. Let me make sure that all the guys that paved the road for me to make 10, 12, 15, $25 million a year, let me make sure they're good. They're not thinking that way. This system needs to be torn down. Caitlin Clark is going to be the example. The WNBA is going to be the thing that shocks people. This is all good. This is all part of the renovation process that must go on. This is all part of draining the swamp. And that, again, I'll go back to Donald Trump. That's the process we're going through in the political system. And trust me, it's not done on November 5th. Let's say Trump wins in a landslide like all the indicators seem to be saying. There will be plenty more draining of the swamp and plenty more that needs to be done. But let's recognize the progress, and this is important for me, I'm really talking to myself. Let's recognize and celebrate the progress that is being made, has been made, is on the horizon. We're actually winning. And I needed that reminder. I need that reminder that we're winning. And the Bible already tells us who's going to win in the end, but we're actually having progress right now. When I look and see, like, oh my God, people are admitting they were wrong about Donald Trump. If they can do that, if we can stomp our feet and support Donald Trump enough to the point that people have to admit they're wrong about Donald Trump, we can do the exact same thing as it relates to, and you've heard me talk about this before, but all of these secular atheists, the Bill Maher's of the world, we can make them see like, oh no, Christian culture is a million times superior to secular culture. We can take a hardcore atheist whose entire brand, Bill Maher, was built on making fun of Christianity. We're watching the scales come off his eyes in real time, like, actually that Christian culture is far superior to this leftist woke culture that won't let me crack these jokes. So if we can rehabilitate and make people admit they're wrong about Donald Trump, we can damn sure, excuse my language, we can dang sure do it as it relates to Jesus Christ and a Christian culture. We're winning. That's my message for this Good Friday. I'm going to try to be more optimistic and try to tell you about our victories, because we got to be more good news. And anyway, I wanted to unpack all that today. I hope I haven't confused you, or I hope I was as crystal clear as it is in my mind about what is transpiring and why it's a good thing, and how sticking to our values will win in the end. In this secular world, sticking to our values will become even more and more valuable and more powerful. That's why Chick-fil-A selling more chicken than KFC. And they don't even open on Sundays. KFC ain't got no, and I like KFC, but it ain't got no lines waiting around the corner. WNBA, Caitlin Clark is so powerful, she's got us watching games she ain't even playing in. And I know a lot of the WNBA players won't like that, and they want all the attention to be on them, but it ain't on y'all. It's her. And it's what she represents to us. She's not perfect. She does too much whining to the refs. But what she represents is like, hey, man, our values, you know what? Two parents producing some great fruit. I'm going to end it on this note. Bring in Steve Kim, Butter, and extend the conversation. But I'm going to end it on this note. Dave Shannon, Chalk Knox, you know, used to, when we were on at night, Chalk Knox would come on. You guys know Dave Shannon. But 3-4 years ago, Dave and I are out to dinner, and I'm talking to Dave about, you know, he lives out in Moscow, Idaho. He and his wife got like 7 kids. Wow, 7 kids. And Dave was telling me about, yeah, I'm just shooting these arrows into the world. And watch. All we got to do, Jason, is get married and have kids and teach them fear and admonition of the Lord and shoot those arrows into the world and watch how things change. He goes, everybody's made it real complicated, and you think you got to do this, and you think you got to do that. And he's like, nah, it ain't that complicated. Jesus Christ and 12 dudes changed the world. I'm going to shoot these arrows into the world, my kids. And when he said it, I was like, because again, I'm not married, I don't have kids, and I'm like, man, I don't know if I want to bring kids into this world. It's so crazy. And it's stupid for me to think like that. And Dave helped me understand that, because Caitlin Clark's parents shot an incredible arrow into the world. And look at the change she's made. Look at the results of that one single arrow of Caitlin Clark. We can do that. Keep having kids. Keep teaching them about Jesus Christ. Shoot those arrows into the world, and they can have incredible impact. Slay these leftists and these demons, and have Barack Obama holding private meetings. I told you niggas, get back on that plantation. Massa gonna be real upset. We can do that. We can make Barack Obama get on his knees and start begging Negroes to get back on that plantation. It's an amazing time to be alive right now. I'm glad I am. All right, before we get to Steve Kim and bring in the Korean Cosell, I want to talk to you about my cell phone service, Patriot Mobile. Americans are tired and frustrated by a stalling economy, inflation, endless wars, and a relentless assault on our values. Thankfully, there's a company like Patriot Mobile that still believes in America and our Constitution. I'm proud to partner with Patriot Mobile because they're on the front lines fighting for the First and Second Amendments, sanctity of life, and our military and first responder heroes. Take a stand for conservative causes and put America first by switching to Patriot Mobile today. You'll get the same nationwide coverage as the big providers because Patriot Mobile operates across all three major networks. Plus, they back their service with a coverage guarantee. Their 100% U.S.-based customer service team will find the best plan for your needs. Keep your number, keep your phone, or upgrade. Go to patriotmobile.com/Jason or call 972-PATRIOT. Right now, get a free month when you use the offer code JASON. Don't get fooled by other providers pretending to share your values or have the same coverage. They don't and they can't. Join me. Switch to America's only Christian conservative mobile provider, Patriot Mobile. Go to patriotmobile.com/Jason or call 972-PATRIOT for your free month of service today. Korean Cosell, Steve Kim, next. Don't miss a second of Fearless. We'll be right back, but check out this clip from an earlier show.
Jason, this is what it is now.
Steve, I'm a tiny bit distracted. You made some great points. But, man, we got Hurricane Butter going on right now inside Butter's stomach. Butter, do you need something to eat or do you need to take a poop?
No, it's all it's just water. It's just
Tiffany, can we get Tiffany in here? Tiffany, I think Butter needs something to eat.
Get a protein bar, Tiff.
Did I end up in the butter box by not saying anything? Is that that's what's happening?
Oh, we can hear you loud and clear. Butter's stomach is rumbling so loud that I'm like, a microphone's got to be catching this. This is incredible. We got to get this man something to eat. But, Steve, I'm going to keep it moving. Jim Trotter, formerly of the NFL Network, is he now with The Athletic, I think? He used to be with Sports Illustrated, longtime San Diego Union Tribune beat writer for the San Diego Chargers. That's when I knew him. He got laid off by the NFL Network a couple years ago and immediately launched a lawsuit and positioned himself as, I got fired because I asked Roger Goodell questions about diversity, equity, and inclusion. Well, now he's dropped his lawsuit, and he put out a statement yesterday. The NFL and I have agreed to resolve my lawsuit and will be creating a scholarship foundation for journalism students at HBCUs, and the NFL has agreed to make a donation in support thereof.
Yeah, 모두 다 빨리 박수 쳐 기다리지 말고 서둘러 Listen that I'm back just to feed you raps and I see that you are 배불러 So fly
All right, welcome back. Cosell, welcome to the show. You and I have talked privately about this pivot going on in college football, the Super League, 70 teams. You know, I'm calling it Walmart. You think this is progress? Do you think this Super League in college football, will it enhance college football or continue to hurt college football?
You know, it's progress. I don't know where it's progressing towards. Maybe a duopoly between two major conferences trying to shut everybody out. Look, I don't like it. I am a traditionalist, for better or worse. I actually liked the regionality, if that's even a word, of college football. I liked having various conferences with their quirks, their own traditions, their own rivalries. And now basically what you're setting up, it looks to me, to simplify it in its broadest terms, are two super leagues funded by competing networks, staking their claims on two super conferences that are going to edge everybody out. And to me, a lot of the charm and the quirks of college football are now going by the wayside. But with that being said, though, Jason, I heard your opening monologue. The television ratings for college football are still very, very strong. This is the reality, whether I like it, you like it or not. The second most popular sport in terms of television ratings are on Saturdays during the fall with college football. That's a fact. We cannot deny it. And you know what I'm going to be doing for about 12 to 14, 16 hours tomorrow? I'll be watching college football in between a fight with Bivol and Beterbiev. That's the truth.
Bubbles burst. And I just think as they continue to go down this direction, they're living off of tradition and the past. You can't convince me that we weren't better off when, like, hey, man, Big 12, man, they throw the football around, they score a lot of points. It's a quarterback league. Man, the SEC, it's a very great defensive line, offensive line. Man, those guys can really run, speed all over the field. That type of character enhanced things. It was a pot of gumbo where now it's just going to be chicken noodle soup and everybody's doing the same. I just think bubbles eventually burst, and just turning college football into a different version, a bigger version of the NFL, not so sure. And I don't even know if I buy all the TV ratings with all this out of home things. If they can rig elections, they can certainly rig TV ratings. But that's Whitlock, the conspiracy theorist.
I think it's part of the NIL and everything changing. I think it's kind of good to see this whole thing shuffling. In another few years, we might know the totality of it. But I think it's good that you're mentioning shaking it up, and I think that's what's happening. You saw it with Alabama and Vandy just last week. It's coming.
Yeah, well, a couple more years of that, and no one will be a Bama fan. Go ahead, Steve.
Yeah, well, look, if the bubbles burst, count me as that last guy that didn't cash out on Enron by the fall of 2001. It'll turn around. I'm with it. You know what? I'm going to take stock options on Enron till the bitter, bloody end. But, Jason, I want to make a point about the playoffs. As someone that did not like the expansion of the playoffs to a 12-team format, which, believe it or not, will be a 16-team playoff before we know it, I want to be fair about this. I remember growing up as a kid in baseball, there were two divisions, the American League and the National League. You had to win the division to be in the playoffs. So in years like 1993, when the San Francisco Giants won 100 games, they were still out of the playoffs. Then Bud Selig, probably the most inept commissioner, according to a lot of people, decided we're going to create extra divisions and we're going to create a wild card. And every traditionalist hated it, including a young Steve Kim who had black hair back then. But you know what? Even though I'm not really a hardcore baseball fan anymore, the wild card and the extra playoff rounds have not ruined baseball. In fact, believe it or not, they've actually created more interest as third place teams are still jockeying to get in the postseason by late August. So again, let's see how this plays out. That's all I'm saying.
Let me rebut that by saying there's more conversation today about what the Minnesota Lynx did and Courtney Williams did to force overtime and have that comeback in the WNBA than anything that happened in baseball last night. And that's not me dumping on baseball, but the bubble did burst on baseball, Steve. And now we're looking at the remnants of baseball that used to be the most dominant sport in all of America.
I want to see what the television ratings are. And again, I know the Oliver Stone in you is going to say they're going to rig the television ratings. Those Nielsen things, those can never be trusted. But Jason, let's try to get the ratings for last night's baseball game, because tonight there's going to be a holy war in Southern California. The fist fights at Dodger Stadium is what I'm calling now Chingasso Ravine between the Padre fans and the Dodger fans. Are going to be a great night of fights. That game's going to hold a lot of interest. Again, baseball is no longer the national pastime, Jason. I completely agree. But it's still very, very popular. But the national passion now is football. I'm going to have to see some real evidence for all these people that say, I no longer watch football. I know they're out there. But when you go by the actual metrics and the evidence, football in America is king for now.
I'm shorting that stock. They call it the big short. I'm short, no different than, and again, baseball, I'm not talking about the ratings this year. The WNBA doesn't even know what it's doing. It's poorly run. If someone comes in here and actually runs that league properly, I'm telling you, it's going to short circuit these men's sports, and the men's sports need to be short circuited and rebuilt. They're just pandering to the wrong group of people and overpaying the wrong group. Anyway, I want to go back. Let's be a bit more positive because I'm on a high. You know, Steve, you made fun of me yesterday, and I don't know if you saw my tweet made fun of me yesterday. And did you not hear me say, not only did I say I was watching the Lynx and the Liberty, but I tried to tell everybody, hop on that Lynx money line, like your boy. And the Lynx came back, and I hope people took my advice. And so, anyway, I want to move on to something more upbeat about college football, and that's some interesting games this weekend. And at the top of the list would be Ohio State at Oregon. Ohio State, many people, I think yourself included, think is the most talented team in college football. And they're taking on a very good Oregon team. Your thoughts, Steve, you're our expert here. Ohio State at Oregon, what should we expect?
Yeah, long-time Big Ten rivalry. Isn't realignment great? This is the stuff we get now. You know, we used to have to think, oh, God, if both teams win their conference, they might play in Pasadena January 1st. No. Because of this realignment, getting this in October. Count your blessings, okay? And Caitlin Clark is not playing, so you better have your television tuned to that game. This is what we do here at Fearless. All right, Ohio State and Texas, to me, are the two most talented teams. If they are not in the Final Four in early January, that year's a letdown for both coaches, Ryan Day and Stark. With that said, even though the game's at Autzen, Ohio State has not played a really good offensive team yet. I think Ohio State is significantly better on both sides of the ball. And despite the home field advantage, I like the Buckeyes by at least 7, possibly 10 points, and they will assert their claim as one of the very best teams in the country.
Steve, don't you think most people think Dan Lanning better coach than Ryan Day? Is that not worth a few points?
Wait a minute. Hold on. I understand why there's heat on Ryan Day. He is in danger of becoming the modern-day John Cooper. Remember John Cooper had a great run at Arizona State, then he went to Ohio State after Earl Bruce. He loaded up that program with major talent that all went to the NFL. Orlando Pace, Terry Glenn, Joey Galloway, Ricky Dudley. What was the bugaboo? Couldn't win the big one. Couldn't beat that team up north, I believe, Michigan. Day this year will beat Michigan. Call me Broadway Joe. I guarantee it. Michigan's not good. But for Ryan Day, who's been in the playoffs, who's went to the national championship game, I don't understand the heat. I think he's done actually an excellent job. Now, look, Jason, you can make an argument that he was born on third base. He didn't hit a triple. He took over a loaded program for Urban Meyer. But if you look at his overall resume, the last 4 to 5 years, he's an elite coach. Now, is there pressure on him to lift up that trophy January 20th? Absolutely. But Dan Lanning last year had 2 opportunities to beat a Washington team, couldn't get it done. Didn't win the Pac-12. And I like Lanning. I think Lanning is a riser in this business. But give Ryan Day some respect.
Oklahoma, Texas. I think Vegas says it all here. The Texas is favored by 14.5 points. I don't think Oklahoma's going to put up a lot of resistance to Texas. Do you concur?
Yeah, look, Quinn Ewers is back, and I thought it was ridiculous that there was any talk of a quarterback controversy. He is QB1 for the Longhorns. And this is what is alarming for Texas. Oklahoma, whose offense has really scuffled this season from the beginning. And they're on to a new quarterback, Michael Hawkins. But did you know that the Sooners' first 5 wide receivers on their depth chart are out? So unless Jamel Holloway or J.C. Watts comes walking through that door and they're running the wishbone, I don't see them creating enough offense to win this game against a very healthy now, rejuvenated Texas squad. I like the Longhorns to actually cover that spread, Jason.
So do I, obviously, in a big way. I'm glad you went there, Steve. That's some good advice there. Finally, the game of the night, the game of the weekend, Kansas State at Colorado.
Jeez. Oh, my God.
The line has moved incredibly. KSU now just favored by 3.5. I think that game opened around 5 or 6. All the money's pouring in on Deion and the boys. I will be up very late. I'm gonna have to take some kind of midday nap just to make this game because I think I'm gonna go to church and then I'm gonna get home about a half hour before kickoff. But I will have to have taken a nap. This game kicks off at 9:15 Central Time. Woo! Holy cow! And so in these 4-hour, 3.5 hour, college games have kind of gotten shorter. But anyway, I'll be up past midnight. KSU, Colorado, your thoughts?
Okay, now are you going to church to pray for Kansas State? Be honest. Come on now.
Yes. Yes.
Yeah, I know. See, I appreciate the honesty there. But Kansas State, on paper, they're favored for a reason. People believe that they were going to be a major threat and a contender in the Big 12. Colorado was not. But Jason, keep this in mind. Kansas State and Avery Johnson, their young quarterback, they're not the same team outside of Manhattan. And I still can't get visions out of my mind of that implosion at Provo, Utah against BYU about 3 weeks ago. I'm going to stun you. I think Colorado pulls the upset here. And they're going to pull the upset, and they're going to become a major legitimate threat in the Big 12. There, I said it.
That's why I'm going to be praying, because I actually agree with you. Look, when they went to Tulane, they won by 7. BYU curb stomped KSU 38-9. I'm glad they beat Oklahoma State, but that was, at home. Colorado's had a bye week.
Yes.
They should have added a few wrinkles. They should be really healthy and fired up. Holy cow! If Colorado wins this game, I got a problem. I may have to skip Monday's show because I don't know if I have to do Monday's show while praising Deion Sanders for knocking off Kansas State. K-State had a bye too. Thank you for the reminder on that. But I hope Bill Snyder came in during the bye week and added a little extra emphasis for the Kansas State Wildcats. But yeah, I'm a little concerned about this game. But I will be watching. That is the game of the night. My whole Saturday night will be wrapped around that. Let's move to the NFL, Steve. The Washington Commanders at the Baltimore Ravens. I think this is going to be a high-scoring game in the 30s. I like the Ravens here. I think that at some point, Jaden Daniels and the Washington Commanders have to come down to earth. But your thoughts?
This is a future MVP, Jason, against what might be a 3-time MVP. I don't care what the records say. I think the Ravens are as dangerous and as good as anybody right now in the National Football League. And they have understood one thing. Derrick Henry is effective running the ball downhill from directly under center, and they are no longer trying to do the square peg to the round hole. I like the way they're humming. They got a lot of momentum. And at a certain point, look, the one thing about Jaden Daniels is they've done a great job, Cliff Kingsbury and that staff, of making it easy for him. And Daniels has done a great job of just hitting the routine throw. We're now at about, the 1/3 mark? They're going to start to get some tape. Second time around the league, third time around the league, you have to continually evolve your offense, your system, and your play calling. But teams will start to catch up to them. My sense is, against by far the best team that the Commanders have faced yet, there's going to be a little bit of a dose of reality given by the Baltimore Bullies. I like the Ravens here in this spot.
Ravens -7 in this game. I would actually, I'm actually kind of leaning. Ravens win, but I don't think they cover, would be my prediction. And then finally, Steve, in the NFL, Lions at the Cowboys. Detroit -3 on the road. I actually think they win by 10. I think they win by 10, and I know Jared Goff can throw interceptions and frustrate me, but I think the Cowboys are paper tigers, and the Lions actually are a good physical team, and when Dan Campbell doesn't do anything stupid, the Lions generally win.
Lions run the ball early, which is something the Cowboys don't always have an interest in, is actually defending the run, a particular linebacker that's a podcast host. I like the Lions. I'm going to stick to my guns here. In my view, the Lions are one of the top 5 rosters in all the National Football League. We made Super Bowl predictions a couple of months ago. I took Detroit. I still have concerns about the back end of Detroit's defense. If Aiden Hutchinson doesn't play Superman and get 5 sacks, they're very vulnerable. But overall, I look at this team coming off a bye. They're able to get to 3-1. I think Detroit starts to play some really good football here. I'm with you. I like Motown here.
And my final thought, I don't know if you have much on this. We've talked about it earlier this week, but Bronny went 0 for 4 last night. I believe he's 1 for 11 through 3 preseason games. He's got 3 rebounds, 1 assist, 5 turnovers. He's off to a stellar start. Any thoughts on Bronny going to Milwaukee? He took that dangerous, harrowing flight to Milwaukee with his dad and, came away 0 for 4 last night.
I don't know if you ever played Little League Baseball. I did. And they used to have a rule that everyone had to play at least 1 or 2 innings. And at least in the league that I played in, everyone had to bat. So if you had 12, 13 players, you would just bat everyone, and then you'd start over the order. So it wasn't a starting 9. This is what Bronny has become. He's become that kid you stick out in right field in the 4th inning, and he gets the bat, and he's like the 12th batter. That's what he is. And I just go back to what we talked about yesterday, Jason, with Shams talking about they're going to make history, the father-son thing. But he's really going to develop in the G League. And I'm like, well, wait a minute. If you've already earmarked him for the G League, why is he playing in game number 1? And it goes to show you how farcical it is. And we've mentioned this, I think, a couple years ago. I remember when Ken Griffey had a really good career. People forget how good Senior was. Very good integral part of the Big Red Machine. And then he had this son named Junior. Pretty good prospect. Ended up being a pretty decent ball player. They ended up playing together as teammates, I believe, in the 89 or 90 season for the Seattle Mariners. And I remember that was a big deal, but it was very organic and it was real because both of them were legitimate, bona fide major leaguers, and something that'll never be done again, Jason, in the history of baseball, in my view. They had a game where they hit back-to-back home runs. Do you ever think there's going to be a game where Bronny and Braun will ever score 20 points together in the same night? I'm just getting the sense that Bronny is a shooting guard that can't shoot. That ain't good. In fact, I get the sense he could be the only guy in the gym not get to 20 points. This has become a farce. And once again, Jeannie Buss is showing that this Laker organization now has become farcical. And old Doc Buss has to be rolling over in his grave. Sad.
I did not get this information from the source that I thought I would get it from. Hadley. Hadley is an NHL guy, the St. Louis Blues. But did you know Gordie Howe and his 2 sons?
Yes.
And his 2 sons played in the NHL at the same time. I'm not sure if they played on the same team.
I think they did.
This is not unprecedented. Like, Mike Greenberg was screaming the other day on ESPN. It's not unprecedented, but there were actually legitimate examples and not someone forcing their son into the league. But, Steve, Have a great weekend. Who's the you? Who are they screwing over cheating this week?
What are you talking about? We are fine-tuning this national championship squad. Mario Cristobal and company hard at work in Coral Gables. We have a bye week. Then we go up to Louisville. So we're just getting ready. A well-deserved rest after a couple of heart stoppers. Quite frankly, I need a bye, but I'll be watching college football for 16 hours tomorrow. Just get on board, Jason. It's still America's passion.
All right. So you don't need to pay off any. You don't have to contribute to the fund paying off the refs this week. Good for you.
So bad.
Thank you.
So bad.
All right. Thank you, Steve. Great job. We'll see you next week. Hey, guys, with the elections coming up, I got something great for you. You need the subscription to Blaze TV because, man, we got some great things going on in terms of election coverage. Here at the Blaze Media, we saw what's all coming, and that's exactly why we exist. Blaze TV and Blaze News is a place where I can speak freely, you can speak freely, we can all speak freely. Consider supporting Blaze Media, where our mission is to set fire to the lies the left wants you to believe. Not only will you get this show, but you'll have access to everything else we do here, from our Blaze original series to Steve Baker's incredible investigative work revealing the shocking lies about January 6th, and so much more. Go to blazetv.com and subscribe today. And when you do, be sure to use the promo code FEARLESS to get $20 off your subscription. That's blazetv.com. Use the promo code FEARLESS to get $20 off today. Stay tuned. We're going to bring on Delano Squires, and we're going to ask him, how did Barack Obama's speech to black men, how did that land with Delano? Next.
Dear Nike.
Dear Nike.
Dear Nike. Why won't you stand up for me?
Why won't you stand up for me? Why won't you?
Why do you claim to support women and girls?
Yet when we need you most,
you remain silent.
Today, males are claiming our identity,
our sports,
our spaces.
Men and boys are stealing opportunities, medals, trophies, and our future.
And it's not fair.
This is not a company that stands up for women. And so I think people are seeing that, set aside everything about producing product in China and, not being able to oversee factories and using unpaid labor. This is not a company that is behaving ethically. They're struggling right now, as we know. Their CEO, John Donahoe, was ousted. Their stock is definitely, on the downswing, and their shares on the downswing. And I think people are tired of the woke antics, the woke capitalism. It's a charade. It really is. It's all a lie. It's a marketing strategy. And when it comes down to it, they don't really stand up for women and protect women. In fact, they treat them with astonishing disregard. And, we're challenging them to do the right thing and to challenge consumers to vote with their dollars. If this is a brand that does not align with your values, stop buying it. Buy ours.
All right, welcome back. Time to bring in Professor D. Delano Squires. D, I'm going to replay for you just in case you missed it last night or your dad didn't call you and say, hey, Barack Obama has summoned us to a meeting and he has something he wants to get off his chest. So your dad or uncle called you and everybody, probably hopped on a Zoom and prayed about it. But anyway, here's Barack Obama with his speech to young men last night. And when it's done, Delano, just tell me how it came off to you. Barack Obama.
Communities is that we have not yet seen the same kinds of energy and turnout in all quarters of our neighborhoods and communities as we saw when I was running. Now, I also want to say that seems to be more pronounced with the brothers. So if you don't mind, just for a second, I'm going to speak to y'all directly and say that when you have a choice that is this clear, when on the one hand you have somebody who grew up like you, knows you, went to college with you, understands the struggles and pain and joy that comes from those experiences. He said to work harder and do more and overcome and achieves the second highest office in the land.
Delano, what did you think?
I think Barack Obama reminds me of, in that speech, reminds me a lot of the content creators. I'm thinking specifically like on dating websites, right? There's a notion, there's a term that a lot of red pill guys will use when they talk about how women speak to men, particularly like in terms of dating, and they call it sign language. It's shame, insult, guilt, and the need to be right. And this is how Democrats speak specifically to Black men. They are deaf to our values, to our principles. They're deaf to our identities outside of being a voter. And I think this is why they speak almost exclusively in sign language, because I watched the entire 5-minute clip. Obama didn't talk about any policy. He didn't talk about any values. He didn't talk worldview. He didn't talk principles. It was all identity. It was all she grew up like you. And I told my wife this morning, I said, she spent a lot of her years in Canada, right? Oh, she grew up middle class, you know, just like you. I'm like, both her parents are PhDs. So I think this is reflective of what little regard the party has for men in general and Black men specifically. And they send Obama out to lecture a bunch of guys who weren't even eligible to vote when he ran in 2008. That was 16 years ago. I know it may seem just like yesterday because Obama's still, you know, fairly young. He's still moving around. But that was 16 years ago, Jason. And he's talking about, oh, there's not as much enthusiasm. Yeah, these guys were in elementary school. That's part of the reason. So I'm not surprised by it. Obama is a male feminist, just like Roland Martin, just like Van Jones, just like a lot of these other guys. And this is why he speaks to men, particularly Black men, in the same sign language as the Democrat Party's female overseers.
Delano, I'm of the opinion that this is actually a positive sign that things are going so poorly and so many people are like, you know what? Screw it. I don't hate Trump. That this is actually a positive sign that they had to dust Obama off and give him this assignment. It didn't seem to me like this wasn't done with a passion like this is what he wanted to do. This is what he has to do because things are looking that bad.
Well, I think Obama in his very nature is sort of professorial. And so he sounds the way he typically sounds. And to be fair, there were times where he would, you know, do this tough talk or do straight talk with Black men, and he would be criticized from the left. So whenever he talked about the importance of marriage and family and social outcomes, he did it at Morehouse University one time during a commencement, and some of his Black progressive allies chided him because they felt like he was lecturing college-educated Black men on the need to get married and have intact families. I was fine with it then. I think this is a lot different. I'll add another one. If Obama took this tone and he talked about the downsides of sexism and misogyny, if he took this tone when he invited a bunch of rappers to the White House and he said, look, guys, we can't have our main contribution to society and the Black community be the denigration and the degradation of our women. We can't get paid to degrade Black women. Then I say, okay, I mean, this is a high risk act he's going for. But what he's doing now, to me, you know, it probably does reflect how poorly her campaign is doing. But I just think this is in bad taste, and I feel it only continues what Democrats were doing in 2020 when they were lecturing Black men who were thinking about voting for Donald Trump. And let me say this part, Jason, because I want to be clear here, because I'm going to give an analysis that you're not going to get this on CNN or MSNBC. Part of the problem that people will say Kamala Harris has connecting with black voters and black men is this notion she's not like us, right? She may not really be black, depending on the ancestry of her father, right? But let's assume she is. Let's assume her dad is 1/8, of African descent. Okay, but she grew up in Oakland and then mainly in Canada, so she's not really like us. She's really, second generation American of immigrant parents. Okay, let's assume that's true. The problem is if that is as far as the conversation goes in the black community with respect to voting for someone, that tells me we are just as vulnerable for the same play in 2028, just with a different quarterback. Because what the Democrats will do is say, look, these guys, they're tired of these, second generation black folk who spent much of their time in foreign countries, Obama in Indonesia and in Hawaii, which is as far away from sort of a mainstream black narrative as you could get, and Kamala Harris in Canada. So we need to find us a super Negro. And I have just the person. We'll get Raphael Warnock. Black man, was married at one time to a black woman. He pastors MLK's old church, son of the South. He would have the black preacher cadence on. It would actually be authentic for him, whereas it's not for Kamala Harris. So I'm saying this because if we don't get over our obsession with superficial identity politics, they will roll out someone who can actually play that role, and you will see black voters, including some self-professed black Christians, roll over and show their belly and say, yes, finally what we've been waiting for. Someone who looks like us and has the same narrative, but is probably even more radical than Kamala Harris. And I think this is why, yes, it's fine to mock and say, she's not like us and she didn't grow up like us. But I think at a certain point we have to say, no, what's more important is for us to get off of identity politics as a way of permanently doing political business.
Warnock you've identified the right person, because I said it in real time. He gave head and shoulders the best speech at the DNC. Didn't agree with it, but it was a tremendous speech. It was delivered very well. He was the best speaker at the DNC, and he is the danger because I'm the pro-choice pastor, and people will go for that, hey, I can be for baby murder, but I'm still with God. You've identified the right person. Delano, are you optimistic today that we're going to see a significant number of black men and perhaps black women vote for Donald Trump?
I think it depends on how we define significant, right? If it goes, let's say, some people had him in 2020 at, 12%. I've seen as high as 20%. I'll say this. I was talking to my wife about this about a month ago, and I set the line at 25%, and I asked her whether she would take the over.
That's
the under.
Significant.
She took the over. I'm taking the over with black men specifically. I think Trump will get at least 25% of the black male vote. That's what I would say right now.
Black women. I've seen stuff that says 10, 15% of them may be in play.
I could see 10 to 15% of black women. Now, Jason, there are a couple of different ways that this could work. Trump, even if Trump loses, but gets a significant share of the black vote, that alone would send ripples and scare the crap out of the Democratic Party, right? Because the thing is, let's say Trump runs up the black vote let's say he gets higher than what's expected in New York City. He gets higher than what's expected in some other blue cities in blue states, right? So he may not win the state, but he might do better among black men than people would expect. That would send ripples in the party. But if he gets a significant share of black men in Philadelphia, in Atlanta, in Milwaukee, and swing states on the backs of black men, then what we will have is an all-out gender war, particularly in mainstream media, because then black men will get the treatment in 2025 that white women, you remember all the headlines, 53% of white women voted for Donald Trump. Black men will get that treatment in 2025 the same way Black women got it in 2017. And I think it will make some of them say, no, don't blame us, because most people don't want, that type of smoke, even if they were asking for it. What I hope is that guys say, no, blame us. We're the ones that did it. That would tell me that guys are ready to say, we're done being lectured by these women who think that they are moms. Obama talked about, Black women had your back, and when you get done wrong by the law, they're out marching in the streets. I said, look, 2 of the 3 BLM ladies were lesbians. They don't have any interest in Black men, right? So yeah, I'm predicting at least 25%. Whether it will be a strategically placed 25% is a different question. But either way, I think Black men should be prepared to get heavier doses of this come 2025.
Yeah, I'll say this and just, I don't want Black women to support me in death. When you get killed, they're gonna have your back. No, I want, when you're alive, when you're out here trying to build something, family, career, children, man, they got your back. They the greatest helpmeet you'll ever see on the planet while you're alive. When I'm dead, I don't need a helpmeet. I got God. I'm good. I'm covered. Anyway, thank you, Delano.
Thank you,
great
Jason.
job as always. Have a great weekend. It's time for Shemeka Michelle to tell us what's going on in the chat. We'll hear from you guys next. Welcome to Extra Fearless with Jason Whitlock. I am Jason Whitlock, your host. Oh my God, Lyndon Johnson, his thoughts are so disgusting. I can't believe you would engage with him. The celebration for being a slut have never been greater. Why do you choose Taylor Swift, and why do you pick up a role as, let me help my woman undress on stage in front of an audience?
When I look at people like Sexy Red or Cardi B that we prop up, now I see that the white community as well is just as fried.
It does look to me like he made some eye contact with her and then just decided, nah, let me move on. The BET Awards seems like a psyop at this point. It's just Democratic brainwashing. Get in there and fight for all the things. Steve, that's it for you. I'm done. All right, welcome back. Time to hear from you and what you guys thought of the show. Shemeka Michelle, what was popping in the chat during today's show?
Okay, Jason, there was a lot going on in the chat. Some of it not even related to the show. We talked about whether or not chicken was good for you. You bringing up Chick-fil-A took the conversation in a whole different place. Whether or not chicken is good for you, you should buy it organic from the Amish. Like, we had a whole different conversation. But people were also wondering, where's Butter? And so I got to give Butter some love today because they wanted to know where he was in the chat. Don Knotts says it says Butter's #1 fan. Oh, signing on.
Butter was here and he chimed in at some point, I think, today, but he's got some friends visiting the studio for something we're doing next week, and so he just stepped off set. But anyway, did I answer the question or did I?
Well, that kind of looks like a piece of butter. They're almost the same color,
Yeah.
So we'll just still, Mo Howard said, I love Butters. But I got to tell Mo, I don't like you putting the S on the end because it sounds like you should say no Diddy after that. Sounds a little suspect when you add the S. It's not okay.
Yeah. Don't add the S. I agree with you.
Yes. Now, Taco the Great or Toco wants to know what you would do, Jason, if Caitlin Clark announced she was gay.
That's a tough question.
Yeah, somebody
that
said
would
you
not
would
go.
commit suicide. You would have to be on suicide watch.
That would, but I want to be clear. I would pray for her, and just I would pray for her. No different than because she's made me like a lot of these players. To Erica Wheeler, I think she's gay, and I love her. I love the way she supports Caitlin Clark. She's a member of the Indiana Fever. I'm praying for, her salvation, and I hope she's praying for mine. But yeah, that would be tough if Caitlin Clark did it. But I don't think that's going to happen. Caitlin Clark's going to marry her boyfriend at some point, is what I see. Anyway, that's a tough question. Next.
Bill Bridges says he loves when you talk about Deion. So just so you know, not everyone hates when you talk about Deion. He loves it. So I just felt like I should throw that in.
Yeah, I know people love it because they watch. They hear me talk about Deion. I know a lot of people on Monday will be tuning in to hear me gloat about Kansas State blowing out, or I guess my wish. They'll tune in to hear me eat crow if Deion beats Kansas State as well. But Primetime has actually been saying a lot of things that I somewhat agree with. He hadn't given me much material to criticize. That's why I need him to lose. When he loses, he says dumb stuff in the press conferences. So they need to lose this weekend, and he can give me some ammo.
And just so you know, Jason, you've been diagnosed with OCD, obsessive Caitlin disorder. And Joseph Santiago wants you to know that the door is still open for your counseling. So you have OCD.
I don't need counseling. Yeah, I definitely have OCD though. Anytime you're watching the WNBA Finals and she's not playing, you have OCD. So I'm guilty.
Yeah, I would agree, Jason. I'm shocked, but I wish I had bet according to what you had to say.
There you go. I'm an expert.
Yeah. Now there's also a debate in the chat, Jason, about you having a child. Milan Fan Club San Diego says, and Jason is too scared to have one kid. This is when you were talking about the importance and what Chalk Knox said about having children. Yeah. And, he said, and you're scared to have one kid. And then the SB said, who is he going to have a kid with at this late hour? Now, we know your sperm's still working, Jason. Why can't you just find you a good young woman to have a child with? Get married and have a child. It's not too late. I know you feel like it would be irresponsible, but I think you would have a legacy to leave the child. You would have money, great life insurance. Like, come on. What say ye?
Shemeka, that's it and that's all from you today. You've put me on the spot. I'm letting Shemeka go. Thank you for that. Whoever asked that question. Look, y'all trying. Do you understand the walk that I'm trying to do, or the what I'm wrestling with every day? I'm trying to kill the Bill Belichick in me. You see the fool Bill Belichick's making of himself with that young woman. I don't want to do that. Trust me, there's Bill Belichick in me, and I'm not 70 like Bill Belichick. But when you talk about what I like is, 20 years younger than me, 18 years younger than me, and to rest, I got to be responsible, and I don't want to be distracted from doing my duty to God, and maybe that's part of the duty, and I'll figure it out. But I don't know if I appreciate the pressure of the question, but anyway, I'm trying to be happy and optimistic today. And, you know, maybe having a kid would make me happier and more optimistic. But anyway, thank you guys. We'll play tomorrow, and we'll see you next week.
Waiting for the countdown, coming off the breakdown, standing in line for freedom. Looking for a breakout, feeling like a standoff, nothing in life like freedom. Came in like a fighter, striking like a ladder, making all this moves for freedom. I want freedom. No negotiation, my sister, no relation. We all just wanna have freedom. Sitting on a corner, never been alone. I'm breaking my back for freedom. Blessed, we are living, get back. We are receiving, no deceiving. We all wanna be free. We want freedom. I wanna be. I just want.